So apparently tobacco is not just bad for your super lungs, but your super psyche. Here's a look at the brand new McFarlane Toys DC Multiverse, the 1978 Superman Platinum Edition Evil Superman. From the doomed planet of Krypton, two parents launch a spaceship carrying their infant son to Earth. Here he grows up to be Clark Kent, a mild-mannered reporter with powers and abilities far beyond those of mortal men. Okay, remember that company I was hoping you would invest in, the Leaning Tower of Pisa statues? Yeah, it's been scrapped. Before we get a closer look, though, at the Platinum Edition Evil Superman from the 1978 stellar film, let's take the tape measure and see how tall the figure stands. Without, I'm sure, making any assumptions, you probably would already know, though, that this is the exact same Superman figure that we've already gotten before. In fact, taking the tape measure, it's going to prove the same, that this Superman's going to stand the same at 7 inches in height, or about 18 centimeters tall. For those maybe doubting that this is in fact the same Superman, shame on you. I'm going to slide over this one here and bring in the original Christopher Reeve Superman. Same body, different deco, clearly. And they're also using with the Evil Superman, the Platinum Edition that is, the same head sculpt that also included with the first Reeve Superman before, which still didn't make any sense at all to me. Body is the same, accessories are the same. Except for one accessory, this one just right over here. Before we actually talk about that, though, let's talk a little bit about trading cards. The trading card, in fact, for the Platinum Edition happens, though, to be the exact same one that we've already gotten with the regular release. The read-up is also not going to change at all. His real name, Clark Kent, or Kal-El, and then, of course, the same paragraph read. I mean, you can easily stop and read both of these if you want, but you're only going to simply be reading the exact same card again. And I've already read this at the beginning of this review, so technically I've beaten you to that. The figure does also come include with a flight stand. So if you already had picked up, let's not nudge Superman in the process, if you had already picked up the original Reeve, then you already know that you're going to get that flight stand again. The stand can be worked on its own independently. There's a peg right there, so easily Evil Superman could just be attached onto that peg. It still has a DC logo. Psst. But if you did want to attach, though, the neck, there's an open canal right here, and basically you just take the neck there and snap it in place. And it works exactly the same way. On the very top of this stand, there's a waist clip here. You can open it up. That's about as far as it's going to open, though. Not that you necessarily need it as wide as that. Take your Evil Superman. Obviously bring up his fabric cape. Yes, the figure does have a fabric cape. And snap it just around his waist. Now, who in their right mind is ever going to display their Superman on it? That's sad. That's quite pathetic. But at least it gives you at least an idea. You can also angle as well the display stand down. So if you want to have him in a flight pose, it works a little bit better that way. Now, one thing I did make the mistake, though, of when we looked at the original Christopher Reeve, was I kind of just jumped right away to looking at the figure. I was so excited to talk about the things I like about him, and I didn't spend nearly enough time talking about the accessories until like near the bitter end. We're going to kind of rectify things right now. The figure does come include with pretty much all the exact same hands. So like, for example, the Kryptonian crystal, he does have that as well. The hands they don't seem to be any bit darker on the Evil Superman release than was on the original Reeve. They look to be exactly the same. I feel, again, like to include all these same accessories again, all the same hands again, plastic, I'm sure, could have been dedicated towards something else. Maybe a Kryptonian rock, for example, that Gus tried to replicate and not knowing all the full ingredients. Well, you already know the end result of that. A kryptonite rock would have been ideal, like even inside the little box that he gifts over to Superman would have been a perfect accessory. The figure does also come include with all the same accessories, so like hand-wise, it comes with a pointing hand. He comes with a couple of grabbing hands. Now, the grabbing hand makes at least more sense when you're dealing with a Superman, Evil Superman like this. This would be good for strangling Clark Kent. Oh, could you imagine if we get ourselves a 2-pack? Clark Kent, maybe a junk heap display base, and of course another Evil Superman. I'd be fine for that. A couple of flight hands also get gifted over to this figure as well. Same Z's as before. And you get yourself another gripping hand there too. So while I was looking at all the things that were inside the pack with this figure, knowing though really very well that Platinum Edition figures essentially are going to get the exact same offerings as normal retail releases, I still can't help but think like the Kryptonite box from Gus would have been an ideal accessory. Even just a tire, like you throw several of these things on Clark Kent when he's battling him in the junk heap. just a standalone tire would have been a cool accessory to pack along with the figure. Now, one thing at least he does get, though, is a different head sculpt. Now, if you're looking at this guy with a stock head, it happens to be the exact same one that was the second portrait that came included with the original regular release. We're going to talk a little bit more about that in a moment. But the other alternate portion of that, or the other alternate portrait, is that of a heat ray vision Superman, which, to look at that, and just to bring back in the original Christopher Reeve, I think I would be hard-pressed to look at the two and not think that this is just simply this head sculpt, and they've just gone in there and painted in the eyes. I mean, that's fine and good. Even, too, if you wanted to swap out this head sculpt, because, again, it's using the exact same ball joint, you could use then the heat ray vision Superman as an alternative to the other two that he had. Speaking of, though, the heads that he has, picking up this one, though, I did want to bring back in the regular Superman, well, the Anchor Superman head sculpt, so you can see exactly the same to one another. I don't know. I just don't think like this necessarily needed to be inclusion with the retail release, knowing very well that a Platinum Edition was pretty much going to come out the exact same time. Although with the price of what this guy's going for online, double at times the price of what the regular retail release is going to be. Superman, I was lucky enough able to find this guy for, I think, around $70 on the Facebook group. But I've seen, though, him selling for a whole lot more, well into the 100 on places like eBay. Body-wise, though, essentially, it's going to be the exact same body as the regular Reeve. I don't think they've done anything differently at all. I mean, clearly, though, they've just darkened the colors. The emblem is also something as well, like it's raised on the torso. So it's not just that they printed this on the front of his chest. They've actually sculpted that. It doesn't look like it's lifting as far, like, even though I know looking at this, it's the exact same mold, but it doesn't look like it's lifting as much as the regular version of Reeve. Again, the colors are all darker here, so instead of the lighter blue, primary colors of blue, red, and yellow, we get kind of darker varieties of that. Very dark blue there for the majority of his torso, dark, kind of almost even burgundy brown trunks, and also a matching cape. Yellow on the belt there, of course the emblem there is all dark and grimy. Down below here as well, like the boots are going to be exactly the same, so same boots still get carried over, same placement of pegs as well. The thing I really like also about the Superman is how dark they made the cape. It also still has a managed wire frame that's put into it, so it's wired on here and it's wired here, but it's not wired down below, so they're not going to ruin the look of the cape. The cape still drapes naturally, but if you did want to put it in a pose, I know I always seem to just kind of bend it off to the side, but at least if you wanted to do that, you can get this guy in a pretty cool looking pose. Love the coloring of the cape, though. And again, like when we looked at Superman, the emblem was still on the same. Let's just open up the cape a little bit more here. So the emblem is still the same size. I don't think they've changed that all the size, but clearly the colors are a lot darker here. Again, a couple of flicking peanuts. I don't know. What else would we have packed along with Evil Superman? I just feel like, again, like if you're going to include the same hands as the regular release, I just feel like the plastic could have been dedicated to something else instead. Unless that down the road, we maybe get another release of this guy and packed along with a junk heap Clark Kent. Yeah, that would be perfect. For the articulation, though, for Evil Superman, it's the exact same as the regular. So the head's going to rotate again on that ball joint. It's essentially still a post. So if you want to change out the head, for example, you just pop that off, replace it then with the Heat Ray Vision head. Maybe we'll do that for final looks. You want to do it for final looks? Okay, we'll save that for the rotisserie. But the head's basically going to be on a post system. So there's a ball joint right here. And a little further up the post, there's another ball joint. Between those two, snap the head back in place. There we go. Head's going to look down. The head's going to look up. And you can also move it back and forth. For how high the head will go, that's as high as it's going to go. And again, you can also rotate it all the way around. The one thing I did notice, though, with the Platinum Edition that wasn't as much the issue with the original one, is that I did notice his arm was a little looser. Not on this side. This side's still pretty good. But this one shoulder right here seems excessively loose for the amount of time I've had this guy out of the packaging. Again, the arms rotate all the way around. You get a full T pose, though, for Superman. He still has the bicep swivel. Double hinge on the elbow, and the hands rotate all the way around. Upper torso, yes, is still going to be on a ball joint. The lower abdomen is also going to be on that same style of ball joint. Still, you've got like soft trunks here, which, you know, again, doesn't look as much like a figure diaper for me. I think it's still pretty fitted to the side of his body, for example. It doesn't look like it sticks out further, but at least it does conceal the joints. As for his legs, he does a full Van Damme splits. Superman's legs can go forward. They can go back. There's a swivel there at the top of the thigh. A double hinge again on the knee, which was a lot easier to pull off on this one than on the original one. I had a harder time actually bending the knee on him. No articulation again down below for the boots. You got your ankle rocker still, an ankle tilt. I guess this would be an ankle tilt, an ankle rocker. And of course you got yourself, again, the toe articulation, which again is really tight on this figure. Not that I really necessarily make use of it that much anyways. But again, like, nice looking Superman. If there was to be a valid argument made as to why a Superman mold had to be used again, it's clearly evil Superman. Certainly, aside from like Richard Pryor, I like Richard Pryor in Superman 3, but aside from that Brainiac robot that he fights at the very end of the movie, what was that all about? That was kind of stupid. But still, though, I mean, one of the standouts for me, at least, was the fact we got ourselves finally an evil Superman in the movies. He eventually did battle himself, although it's probably more conceived to be inside his head than literally he split himself in half and then had to fight himself in the junk heap. But I do like the fact that both of the Supermen, while again using the same mold, found the way, of course, to incorporate something that's an element in the movie. I have to still, again, argue why they had to use the exact same things, though. Same hands, same Kryptonian crystal. Like evil Superman would never use a Kryptonian crystal. Had it been a case that they could have resculpted the crystal instead for like a peanut, something that he's flicking though in the bar, that would have been also a really ideal way of making use of that hand, but just shrinking down the crystal and turning it into a peanut instead. Again, when you get to head options available as well, the regular retail release did come included with the evil Superman portrait anyways, so I mean really you're getting still the same head, but this one does at least benefit from having the heat ray vision head, which does seem though to be borrowed over from the first one that we looked at. Evil Superman is, after all, a Platinum Edition, and because he gets a lot of borrowed over hand-me-downs from the regular retail release. It means, though, his accessory count is high, but you may be looking at some of the things that he gets packed with, and maybe you could be questioning, for example, why does he have the hand that has the Kryptonian crystal? I feel like maybe they could have gone in there and retooled the crystal to be a peanut instead, because he's flicking those peanuts in the bar when he's breaking all those glass bottles. Maybe, for example, like while he does have the heat ray vision head, which again is just the stock head for the regular Reeve retail release, maybe this could have been an opportunity, as I said in this review, to change some of the heads. Like a screaming face would have worked really well for an evil Superman, but would you know though, it would also work really well if you wanted to display the regular Reeve with that head sculpt instead too. Now, I'm sure down the road we are still probably going to be getting this guy get released again. I feel like, again, there's an opportunity maybe to release a 2-pack where you could have a junk heap evil Superman fighting Clark Kent. And some of the things that I included in my review of mentioning like throwing tires could be maybe some of the things that they could pack along with this set. Now, for this one, though, I mean, while the colors are, again, a lot darker, one of the things I didn't actually mention in this review is not only is the coloring of the blue a lot darker, but he's got all these kind of scuffed up paint that they've added to the legs, the arms, and the torso. So it looks like Superman's gotten really dirty and grimy. Speaking, though, of dirt and grime, though, I mean, look at the coloring of his cape. The thing about the cape, though, is the way that it looks like it's been dyed, I wondered, like, if it ever got wet, if it would start to leave a stain behind. I mean, it certainly wouldn't be as much the case, I think, with the regular retail Reeve, but I feel like maybe with this cape, the way that they've painted it, I wonder if it happens to get wet, if it's going to bleed some of the paint that comes off that cape. I don't know. Obviously, I'm not going to try to get this thing wet just to see if that's true or not. In the end, though, I am happy that I picked this one up. I am certainly, though, happier that I got it for the price that I did. I wasn't going to be paying at all the $100 or so. That's $100 plus on eBay, but some lucky seller was actually having this on Facebook, and I was able to get this guy to mark it down for around $70. $70 is still pretty high, but I knew I did want to add the evil Superman as part of my collection, and now that I can, he's going to look really great with the regular Christopher Reeve we've already had a look at. What do you guys, though, think of this figure? Let me know down below in the comment section. Would you have also wanted to see different accessories get packed with this one that weren't already released with the original regular version of Christopher Reeve's Superman? Let me know what you guys think of this figure down below in the comments section. If you guys also did enjoy this video, you can do it a solid and throw it a like. If you guys want to stick around for more so, I certainly hope so. We're not done yet just with Christopher Reeve, even though we really can now check off the boxes for the regular Reeve and now the Evil Platinum Edition. We are also going to be looking at the comic version of Christopher Reeve. Same body, slightly different deco. You'll see what I mean when we have a look at that figure in the review. As always, guys, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.